Are you trying to lose weight and become more active, but find that you're limited by your pain levels? This may also be affecting your energy levels and your mood. Like many of my patients, you may have found that you have tried lots of different things to lose weight, but nothing seems to work. Well, in this video, I'm going to let you know about the Keystone Rule to help you gain more confidence in your weight loss plan, begin to see changes and become more active, whilst improving your pain and mood along the way. Hey friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mahin and I'm a physiotherapist specialising in pain management based in the UK. On this channel, we discover lifestyle strategies and tools to help manage pain and create healthier and happier lives. Today, I'm going to be sharing a strategy to weight loss that is simple to follow in the presence of persistent pain. So let's get into it. Prevalence of being overweight or obese is very high in the general population, and it's also linked to long-term conditions such as cardiovascular disease and diabetes. There is an even higher prevalence in chronic pain, with 80% of people with fibromyalgia being overweight or obese. This leads to a large impact on pain levels because of increased biomechanical load, changes to the gut microbiome, and low-grade neuroinflammation, which is inflammation of the nervous system. If there is a reduction in body fat, then there's also a reduction in neuroinflammation levels as well, which leads to a reduction in pain levels. This is not only seen in one joint, but in widespread pain as well, which shows the relationship between pain and inflammation. But this is a typical chicken and egg situation because it's not only the impact that weight has on pain, but also the impact that pain and its associated features has on lifestyle and weight. So you may be taking medication for your pain, such as gabapentin or pregabalin, which have side effects of weight gain and increased appetite. This can be a real challenge then when trying to lose weight. I've spoken before about how medication is often not the answer in the long term for persistent pain. So if you are considering a medication reduction, then please speak to your doctor or your health professional for support with this. Apart from medication, there are other factors that can influence our weight control as well, such as our lifestyle factors. And these lifestyle factors include things like our diet, so what we consume as energy, physical activity, how we use that energy, stress, which leads to low-grade inflammation and also behavioural responses related to that stress, and sleep, which is when our fat burning and our restoration processes happen. We know that passive interventions such as massage and acupuncture have short-lived effects on pain in the long term. So looking at these other lifestyle factors is a really good way of managing weight and pain in the long term. And this is just another notch in favour of why we should look at improving our lifestyles to create healthier and happier lives. The four areas I've just mentioned, diet, activity, stress and sleep, are all linked to each other, and therefore small changes in one area can impact all of the others as well. Initially, trying to change our habits requires a lot of willpower, and there isn't usually enough to go around for all the habits we're trying to change. That's why it's common for us to slip up on the areas we're trying really hard to improve. You may have experienced this yourself when trying to change your diet to include more veg, exercise daily, or even quit smoking. Despite your best intentions, these changes are short-lived and you return to your normal after a while. And this is where the Keystone Rule comes in, which is the ultimate secret to weight loss when you are suffering from chronic pain. By focusing on one of these areas initially, we're not overwhelmed by trying to change everything at once, and we can put all of our efforts and focus into just one area. For example, if we focus on trying to improve our sleep, this has a direct positive effect on our anxiety levels and our mood the next day. Also, improved sleep will mean that we have more energy the next day, which means we're much more likely to be active. Being more active and having an improvement in mood then leads to better diet choices the next day because we pick healthier foods rather than the ones that we might want to binge on a little bit more. And all of these things together then leads to better weight management. I'll talk a little bit about each of these lifestyle areas now. The foods that we eat are needed to fuel the many different functions and processes that our bodies have. This is why it's so important that we consume a variety of nutrients so that what we eat is put to work rather than being stagnant calories that are not used up. Our gut is now known as our second brain because of the impact that diet has on our mood, our various bodily processes, and our brain health. A plant-based whole foods diet, or the Mediterranean diet, are seen as anti-inflammatory diets. Diets high in processed food, gluten, sugar, and dairy are seen as pro-inflammatory. One of the first steps in looking to improve our diet so that we can begin to lose weight is by keeping a food diary. Now, what we can do with this food diary is we can think about what our desired diet is and compare that with our actual diet. I've done a previous video on diet that I'll leave a link to in the description that goes into more detail about what a healthy diet looks like. The idea with the food diary isn't so that you can, really criticize yourself or be really hard on yourself when you're not meeting your aims with your diet. It's just so that you have an awareness of what you are eating and seeing how that differs from what you want your desired diet to be like. Another way to approach diet when you are suffering from chronic pain is considering batch cooking. So there are good days and bad days with pain, and often during bad days is when patients report to me that they struggle the most with maintaining a healthy diet. And this is because on those bad days, people tend to reach for the foods that are easiest to eat and also sometimes the quickest to access as well. So this is where batch cooking comes in, because when we are going through a better spell with pain, it can be that we look to do a lot of cooking within that time and freeze that food so that when you are experiencing a flare-up, for example, that you have healthy food to access because it's already been pre-prepared. Now, obviously with batch cooking, one of the key things is to not boom and bust and to make sure that you pace yourself with the cooking. So it might be that you actually dedicate a whole day to doing this cooking rather than trying to cram the batch cooking into a morning, for example. Because what we wouldn't want to do with the batch cooking is to have an increase in activity, which then leads to a bust afterwards. So although I'm talking about batch cooking, it's not about cramming everything in, it's about dedicating a day for the cooking so that you do have healthy food there when you are experiencing a flare-up or you are having a bad day. We know the impact of physical activity on weight and the importance of using up the energy we consume so that it's not stored as fat. However, being active when in pain can be a challenge. This is why it's important to set small, achievable goals so that you can gradually increase your activity levels without flaring up your pain. The mistake that people often make is that they set outcome-based goals, such as, I want to lose 10 pounds, rather than process or identity-based goals. An example of an identity-based goal is, I want to be the type of person who moves more every day. An example of a process-based goal would be, I want to walk 1,000 steps daily. So it's really important that you form your identity around becoming the person who moves more every day. And it doesn't have to be a lot more, it just has to be 1% more than you did the previous day. Again, small, achievable wins and a gradual increase in activity over time is what's going to increase activity levels over time. So this may first start off by tracking your steps and aiming to do 50 steps on the first day, slightly more on the second and the third. The next week you may aim to do 100 steps on the first day, and very soon you will be up to whatever step goal you may have, whether this is 1,000 or 10,000 steps daily. Keep activity levels consistent on good and bad days and have a minimum amount of activity that you aim to complete each day, regardless of whether it's a good or a bad day. Again, don't be hard on yourself if you don't achieve that one day. It's about being consistent over time. One day won't make a difference in the grand scheme of things, so it's important not to beat yourself up about it and make sure that the next day you just make up for it by going back to your consistency. And by achieving these small daily wins, you will confirm the identity that you set for yourself around the type of person who moves more every day. The other mistake that we make when setting goals is that we set this goal to be so big that it actually becomes really, really overwhelming when we even just think about it. I will walk 50 steps today rather than I want to walk 1,000 steps is not only more achievable and doable, but it's also more specific and provides a clear plan for you to get to your aim. Stress is the most overlooked area when considering weight management because it affects everything. Stress increases chronic low-grade neuroinflammation and is linked to many chronic conditions such as diabetes, heart conditions, strokes, as well as chronic pain. And often we have a stress cycle that looks like this. So with the stress, we tend to have poorer sleep. Poorer sleep leads to us having less energy the next day, which means that we're likely to be less active the next day. Less activity the next day then leads to poorer food choices, and poorer food choices leads to kind of more fatigue and again a drain on those energy reserves that we have. And that increase in fatigue leads to more pain, and then that more pain leads to increased stress, and that cycle just continues to go round. I spoke about how sleep can have a positive snowball effect onto our other lifestyle areas earlier in the video, but sleep also has its own direct impact on our weight as well. Sleep is a time of restoration for our body and brain. It's also when a lot of fat burning takes place. I've done a previous video on sleep that I'll leave a link to in the description below, but when we're thinking about sleep, we not only want to think about sleep quantity, which is usually about 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night for adults, but also sleep quality. There's so many things that we can do during the day and in our routines to improve sleep at night, so check out that sleep video after this one if you haven't already. And thinking about sleep quality, if we're not accessing those deeper levels of sleep at night, then our body is not getting the chance to restore or burn fat optimally. So the secret to weight loss when suffering from chronic pain is by focusing on one keystone habit, forming an identity for yourself, and then confirming this identity with small daily wins. To learn more about keystone habits, check out this video on how to turn bad habits into good ones. This is not only a good video for weight loss, but also for when you're trying to form any new habit. So be sure to check out that one next. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next week.